Jiang Xiaofeng, who inherited the knowledge and intelligence of Tongsheng Zhantu, brought Pandora's box to the world of Douluo Continent 3 with the will of the author Jing DaNeng. Can he become the Kamen Rider in his heart? There is a fundamental contradiction between humans and soul beasts, and there is also a hatred that lasts for tens of thousands of years. Can Jiang Xiaofeng reverse all of this? I don't know if I can change all of this, but I can't ignore it. I want to give it a try and change it. P.S. I am a beginner and may have many poison points. If you have any questions, you can directly point them out. The setting of this book is not based on Do 4, which makes it difficult to read, and the later settings are too contradictory, as well as pull. This article is a Knight's article by Douluo. Please do not enter if you do not like it. Keywords of the novel. The Genius Scientist of the Legend of the Dragon King. No pop-ups. The Genius Scientist of the Legend of the Dragon King Complete Collection Download. The Genius Scientist of the Legend of the Dragon King Latest Chapter Reading. Chapter 1. Preface. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Preface. In the endless multiverse, there is an extremely powerful organization that controls these multi-universes. The name of this organization is Some Point. The supreme deity of this organization, named the River Crab God, oversees all the people under his command. He oversees not ordinary people, but countless subordinates. The author, Jing DaNeng. Once the strength reaches the author's realm, the strong can freely create planes, and even the weak can freely modify the cause and effect of planes. And now, a new author, Jing, has a great idea, and the fate of an ordinary person living on Earth has changed. Jiang Xiaofeng is walking aimlessly on the street. It's Sunday now, and even though Jiang Xiaofeng's company operates under the 996 system, it's still a break time, and Jiang Xiaofeng takes advantage of this time to come out and take a walk. He is an orphan who was adopted by the director of an orphanage since childhood. The name of this orphanage is Mourning, and there are many orphans like him inside. Since Jiang Xiaofeng was able to live independently, he has moved out of the orphanage, but he also occasionally visits the old dean of the orphanage. When he has extra money, he also donates from time to time. After all, he can't forget his roots. After leaving the orphanage, many people would occasionally come back to take a look, but later they disappeared and didn't know where they had gone. Suddenly, he saw a little girl walking into the middle of the road, and in the distance, a truck roared towards him. Not good. Jiang Xiaofeng didn't hesitate, or rather didn't think at all. Subconsciously, he rushed over and pushed the little girl away. At this moment, the truck also rushed towards Jiang Xiaofeng. Done. Bang. Jiang Xiaofeng was knocked away, while his soul flew towards another universe. Let's go, today's business is completed, let's see off another traveler. The driver got off the truck and the little girl nodded. So, I am the legendary traveler. Jiang Xiaofeng looked at his white and tender hands with a bewildered expression, then knew nothing. Fetal confusion, 3 years. Whose child is this? A person walked over to the sound of crying, and soon she saw Jiang Xiaofeng, who had lost consciousness on the ground and started crying like a normal baby. Watching the child on the ground crying incessantly, she picked up the child with some heartache. Strangely enough, as she picked up the child, the baby in her arms suddenly stopped crying and then began to look at her and laugh. Seeing the child smile, she felt her heart melt. You can live with me from now on, okay? She teased the baby in her arms, and the baby looked at her curiously, obviously not quite understanding what this sentence meant. If you want to live with me, I need to give you a name. What should I call you? Since I found you under the maple forest, I'll call you Jiang Xiaofeng. Let's go home. This woman's name is Jiang Haitang, and she is the dean of the Junior Soul Master Academy in the Aolai City of the Sun and Moon Federation. Her husband passed away a few years ago and has no children to this day. After seeing Jiang Xiaofeng, her mother's love grew stronger and she decided to adopt this child. Time flies, and 3 years have passed quickly. Jiang Xiaofeng's memory has also awakened. This feeling is wonderful. Although Jiang Xiaofeng knew nothing for the past 3 years, his personality remained the same after waking up. Everything from the past seemed to be experienced firsthand, and various habits were still maintained. The same was true for emotions. In Jiang Haitang, Jiang Xiaofeng felt the feeling of having a mother for the first time. Based on my memories over the past few years, I believe I have traveled through the worldview of Dou San, and it should be similar to Tang Wulin's contemporaries. However, I have only seen a part of Dou San, and I haven't seen it since then. The advantage of the time traveler is not significant. After all, with a martial soul and modern technology surrounding it, it can only be the worldview of Douluo Continent 3. As for why can it be confirmed that he is of similar generation to Tang Wulin? Because Jiang Haitang once found a person named Mangtian to make something, and he didn't have an apprentice named Tang Wulin by his side. But it's hard to say, maybe Tang Wulin went to Donghai City. At present, it seems that I don't have a system, and it's hard to say. Many Douluo Tongren need to awaken their martial soul to have a system, and the most ruthless one is that they only have a system when they reach level 99. It is also possible that one has awakened a particularly powerful martial soul. Even if none of these are present, it is not impossible to be honest and wait for Tang Wulin to solve everything. After all, their fight did not affect oneself, and a peaceful life is not a bad thing. There is no need to stir up the wind and rain. But he has a feeling that it's best to start exercising now. The stronger the exercise, the better. It's not that there's any danger, it's just a vague feeling that exercising now has great benefits for oneself. Jiang Xiaofeng simply followed his feelings and began to exercise seriously. Jiang Haitang naturally won't fail to support, although she doesn't think Jiang Xiaofeng will persist. Jiang Haitang felt that it was like a child suddenly fell in love with a toy. 3 days were fresh, and after 3 days, they became tired. But Jiang Haitang never thought that Jiang Xiaofeng's persistence lasted for 3 years. And in these 3 years, Jiang Xiaofeng also confirmed one thing. He and Tang Wulin were in the same year, so Jiang Xiaofeng also prepared 2 policies. 1. If you have any strong golden fingers, then naturally it's best. However, whether to follow the group or not depends on the situation. Gu Yuna, the first goddess of Douluo, can also compete. Although I haven't read much about the legend of the Dragon King, I have heard that it will ultimately be a tragedy. Perhaps I can change this tragedy. 2. If you don't have any strong golden fingers, then you should establish a good relationship with Tang Wulin from a young age, and in the future, you can basically become a carefree wealthy man. But if that's the case, then don't think about fighting for Gu Yuna yourself. Even if you fight for Nar, you can't stand it. After all, it's useless if only Nar likes it, and Gu Yu also likes it. And when Gu Yuna confronts the human side, in case of her butterfly effect, something happens. Gu Yuna tears and slays Xiaofeng. That's all for TM. And now, which path one should take depends on the awakening of the martial soul. That's right, Jiang Xiaofeng is already 6 years old now, and 6 years old is the time when his martial soul awakens. This year is the beginning of Tang Wulin's cheating, and it is also a key point in determining his future direction. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Martial Soul Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Martial Soul Awakening. The street at the entrance of Hongshan College is already congested, with parents bringing their children to awaken their martial souls everywhere. As the dean of Hongshan College, Jiang Xiaofeng's mother, who is not biological, more like biological, naturally does not need to queue up. That's right, related parties are just so arrogant. As a related party, Jiang Xiaofeng naturally has a more professional awakening room, where more professional soul masters from the transmission tower will awaken his martial soul. Although spirit transmission towers are noble, not all soul masters of spirit transmission towers are noble. Soul masters who come to awaken their martial souls are naturally the lower-level personnel of spirit transmission towers. They can help those with real power in the local area, and everyone is better off. Upon arriving at Hongshan College, Jiang Xiaofeng was taken into an independent awakening room, and his mother, Jiang Haitang, was also allowed to follow due to her special identity. The awakening master who awakened Jiang Xiaofeng's martial soul was a female soul master, and the awakening room was surrounded by various strange patterns. Jiang Xiaofeng knew that these should be soul guiding arrays. After all, times have changed, and the awakening of martial souls no longer relies on the 6 small stones, but on these soul-guided arrays to awaken martial souls. Jiang Haitang still reminded Jiang Xiaofeng, be calm and focused later, don't think recklessly in your mind. If anything goes wrong, just don't worry, Mom, I know. To be honest, Jiang Xiaofeng doesn't dislike the feeling of someone nagging in his ear, because it shows that someone cares about him. And now that he finally has a mother who is willing to nag in his ear every day, Jiang Xiaofeng feels quite happy. Dean Jiang, don't worry, I'll help your son awaken, there won't be any problems. The spiritual master patted his chest and assured him, with a look of peace of mind. Jiang Xiaofeng looked at Jiang Haitang and said, Mom, I'm going. Go ahead, no matter what kind of martial soul you awaken, you are my precious son. Jiang Haitang was worried that Jiang Xiaofeng would lose heart because of the bad awakened martial soul, so she comforted him in advance. Jiang Xiaofeng nodded and walked towards the spiritual master. I saw a white light ball in the hands of the teleporter. Jiang Xiaofeng looked at this light ball and said, is this soul power? It looks quite magical. The teleporter threw the light ball in his hand towards the ceiling, and in an instant, the light ball merged into the soul-guiding array on the ceiling. The array pattern on the ceiling also lit up and continued to extend downwards, eventually spreading to Jiang Xiaofeng's feet. Jiang Xiaofeng felt a warm current pouring into his body from the soles of his feet. An invisible wave of energy spread from Jiang Xiaofeng's body, and the spiritual master and Jiang Haitang looked at each other in surprise, possessing soul power. At the same time, one image after another began to flash through Jiang Xiaofeng's mind. The night system is my ultimate masterpiece, unlike the smoke system, build has extremely high growth potential. We extracted nebular gas from Pandora's box and purified it to obtain an energy bottle. After research, it has been found that individuals with a danger level less than 2.0 will lose their sanity after injecting nebular gas and become assassins. After knocking them down, they can recover by withdrawing the nebular gas, but they will lose the memory of the time they became assassins. And for people with a danger level less than 1.0, once injected with nebula gas, the nebula gas will completely assimilate with them, and the moment they are knocked down is their death. Only people with a danger level greater than 2.0 can remain rational and maintain human form after injecting nebular gas. And there is a very small number of people who have a danger level greater than 3.0. After injecting nebula gas, they can use the creative writing system I developed. Through the creative writing driver, they can insert any organic or inorganic energy bottle to transform into Kamen Rider, Creative Writer. The night system is not a war machine. It was developed for love and peace. Even if I were just a fake hero, the night system was only developed for war, and I would definitely use it for justice. Not only are there images one by one, but there is also a vast amount of scientific knowledge that transcends the Douluo Continent and several eras of previous Earth. After the brainstorming ended, Jiang Xiaofeng's martial soul finally appeared, but this feeling was very strange. Jiang Xiaofeng has learned about the awakening of other people's martial souls, and they all feel something being released from their bodies. But Jiang Xiaofeng's feeling was completely different. His feeling was that something that shouldn't exist in his body was being rejected. That is a metal square, carved with various strange patterns. Moreover, Jiang Xiaofeng felt that after the release of this martial soul, it had no further relationship with him, and could not attach soul rings or even retract them. Perhaps because it stayed inside Jiang Xiaofeng's body for too long, he could barely control the square in front of him, but only in certain specific situations. At the same time, he also felt that he had two additional abilities, measuring his danger level and the fourth-dimensional chrysanthemum. When it was all over, Jiang Xiaofeng finally recovered and began to carefully observe his martial soul. To be honest, Jiang Xiaofeng still didn't understand what was going on, and then a round of brainstorming came, making him still dizzy to this day. It's okay if he didn't see it clearly. When he saw the appearance of his martial soul, Jiang Xiaofeng's heart stirred up a storm. Isn't this TMD the Pandora's box from the Kamen Rider build? What is the situation? No, this can no longer be called a martial soul. It seems more like it has already been inside one's own body, but separated from one's own body by taking advantage of the awakening of the martial soul. This is definitely the authentic Pandora's box, even more authentic than the one of Qiandai. And when Pandora's box was inside his body, it seemed to have absorbed his original martial soul, which is why he had a little bit of control over it. Wait, how did I analyze it? Are these additional knowledge in my mind? They seem to come from the Tongsheng War Rabbit. That hand-rubbing team cheats, the most intelligent main rider in history. Do you seem to have inherited his ability to think and react? And my current danger level is 2.4, so I can inject nebular gas while maintaining a rational state. Although this level is not yet able to use the Chuangqi driver, it can already easily utilize the power of energy bottles for combat. So, are you going to take the path of rubbing your belt and cheating with your hands? Jiang Xiaofeng analyzed and found that with the ability of creating cavalry, it seems that one can really get by on the Douluo Continent. If it were in other fantasy worlds, it might not be possible to get by. But Douluo Continent is different. It is a shame in the fantasy world, a floor, and even less powerful than some martial arts planes. And even if it is the strongest combat power of Douluo, God is not much stronger. You should know that the 6 major divine realms were almost destroyed by a black hole cluster, and the snake skin monster form of General E can easily create a large black hole, which is enough to crush the divine realm. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Pandora's Box. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3 Pandora's Box. While Jiang Xiaofeng was still daydreaming there, Jiang Haitang, the spirit transmission master, stared wide and wide. What kind of martial soul is this? I don't know, there has never been such a martial soul in the records of the spiritual transmission tower, the spiritual transmission master replied with a bewildered expression. She had seen the box before, but she had never seen such a strange-looking box before. Does Xiaofeng need to report this situation to the transmission tower? Jiang Haitang asked with some concern. For her small junior soul master academy, the spiritual transmission tower can be described as a behemoth. For children, being targeted by such organizations too early is not a good thing. If this unknown martial soul is a top-level martial soul, then Jiang Xiaofeng will inevitably bear the pressure that this age should not bear. If it is a useless martial soul, it may turn into a huge blow for children, and there are always some people in society who like to spread rumors everywhere. Because they cannot do it themselves, in order to appear superior, they will cling to other people's problems and promote them everywhere. Someone once committed suicide by being sprayed with such a spray. With these lessons from the past, Jiang Haitang still hopes that Jiang Xiaofeng can grow up ordinary. It doesn't matter if there are any significant achievements, as long as Xiaofeng can grow happily and not go astray. Don't worry, don't worry. The spiritual master replied when he saw Jiang Haitang's worried expression. After all, strange martial souls occasionally appear on the mainland, and if everyone is reported, the transmission tower will not be bothered to death. Under normal circumstances, only unknown martial souls that can be confirmed to be of top quality need to be reported. An ordinary unknown martial soul only needs to be recorded. I tested his soul power, and his soul power is level 5, indicating that he is not a particularly powerful martial soul and does not need to be reported. Upon hearing this, Jiang Xiaofeng breathed a sigh of relief. After all, it's not a good thing for a child to be noticed when they are too young. So, Jiang Xiaofeng's martial soul name was registered as Box. Jiang Xiaofeng has no objection to this, and his name doesn't matter. After all, this is not his martial soul, and his ordinary name is not easy to attract attention. Moreover, in a sense, one does not have a martial soul, so there is no need to think about following the path of a soul master's cultivation. Since the fantasy path is no longer feasible, one can only follow the science fiction path. It's a pity not to utilize so much knowledge. Returning home, Jiang Xiaofeng smiled and picked up Jiang Xiaofeng. Xiaofeng, do you want to become a war soul master or an instrumental soul master? War soul masters usually refer to the main combat soul master, while instrumental soul masters usually refer to auxiliary-type soul masters. Jiang Xiaofeng thought for a moment and decided to have a showdown directly, otherwise it would be inconvenient for him to conduct his own research. Mom, it seems that my martial soul cannot attach soul rings, he said. Jiang Xiaofeng smiled and said, silly child, how could it be that a martial soul cannot attach a soul ring? After all, she had never heard of a martial soul that cannot attach a soul ring. Then she saw Jiang Xiaofeng's serious expression on his face. Are you serious? Jiang Xiaofeng knew that every time Jiang Xiaofeng showed such a serious expression, it meant that he was absolutely telling the truth to himself, at least to her. Well, I can feel that my martial soul doesn't seem to be used for cultivation, but rather brings something else. Is there anything else? Jiang Xiaofeng Island didn't doubt it. After all, martial souls are everywhere. What strange martial souls have appeared before, and now there is another strange martial soul, which seems not surprising. Well, at least for Jiang Xiaofeng at the current stage, this is the case. After all, the more advanced theory of martial souls is not something that people at her level can come into contact with. If we were to replace it with a senior teacher at Shrek College, perhaps we could see that Jiang Xiaofeng is not really a martial soul. It seems to be in the talent of soul guides. Jiang Xiaofeng replied. If there's anything to push to the martial soul, it's okay. Anyway, Jiang Xiaofeng is not a professional, and she doesn't know if her words are correct. Moreover, in a sense, her knowledge is really brought by Pandora's magic box, and it's not a lie to her. Jiang Xiaofeng pondered for a moment and realized that he couldn't become a soul master. It seems like becoming a soul master is also good. After all, the usage of soul guides on Douluo Continent is still very high now. As long as we get on the right track, we will definitely not worry about food or clothing in the future. Mom knows now, and then she will find a good soul guide teacher for you to guide you. Jiang Xiaofeng touched Jiang Xiaofeng's head and said with a smile, saying the most terrifying words. Boo. Class. However, Jiang Xiaofeng didn't care much because he not only inherited the knowledge of Zhantu, but also the thinking ability of his genius physicist, which is IQ. The teacher's teaching may not be enough for him to learn, so Jiang Xiaofeng didn't refuse. Moreover, he didn't know much about the soul guidance formation in this world, so learning more is always right. Returning to the room, Jiang Xiaofeng began to study his Pandora's magic box. As Pandora's magic box was not his martial soul, Jiang Xiaofeng could not contain it inside his body and could only put it inside the four-dimensional chrysanthemum. It seems that because Pandora's box has been present in his body for a long time, Jiang Xiaofeng has already completed the step of injecting nebular gas. And now, Jiang Xiaofeng can finally feel what kind of permissions he has obtained from Pandora's box. Jiang Xiaofeng closed his eyes and began to carefully feel the faint connection. This kind of connection is very weak. If it weren't for calming down and feeling it seriously, Jiang Xiaofeng would even suspect the existence of this feeling. Quickly, Jiang Xiaofeng found the slightest connection, or more accurately, the flow of information. Jiang Xiaofeng relied more on this flow of information to feel the power inside and feel how much right he had to use this power. What a terrifying force that is! Jiang Xiaofeng saw a huge black hole that devoured everything. The divine realm was not worth mentioning in front of this black hole, nor could it be said to be huge. It was so small that it was completely imperceptible to the naked eye, but it had unparalleled mass. The total mass of the entire Milky Way galaxy did not seem to be as large as its own. Some people may not know what this concept really is. It should be noted that a black hole is not a hole that will suck objects in, but a physical object. According to the formula of universal gravitation, F equals g/m/r, any object has a gravitational force, and its gravitational force depends on its mass and volume. The larger the mass and the smaller the volume, the greater the gravitational force. A black hole is a strange celestial body with a mass tending towards infinity and a volume tending towards infinity. And the gravitational force of a black hole, even light, cannot escape, so a black hole is called a black hole, devouring all objects and light, appearing like a pitch black hole. On the other side, there is an object similar to a white hole, which is directly connected to countless parallel universes. The object swallowed by the black hole is then exiled to other universes by the white hole, forming a perfect balance. P.S. Seeking recommended tickets. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Rabbit. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Rabbit. In the face of these two cosmic-level disasters, Jiang Xiaofeng felt incredibly insignificant. No, it's the immense insignificance of humanity in front of them. In the face of such natural disasters, all internal struggles of humanity seem meaningless, even ridiculous. In this Douluo Continent, whether it is humans or soul beasts, in order to truly become powerful, it is necessary to unite. The disappearance of the divine realm is a good thing in a sense, which creates possibilities for the union between humans and soul beasts. The heavenly calamity of soul beasts is a regulation established by the divine realm to prevent the emergence of a new dragon god, and the limitation of soul rings required for soul master cultivation may also come from the divine realm. The Xiantian skill in Douluo Continent 1 originally did not require a soul ring, but after arriving in Douluo Continent, the Xiantian skill also needed a soul ring to advance. And this is obviously also the credit of the divine realm. Jiang Xiaofeng speculates that this may be a means for the divine realm to further suppress the animal lineage. And now that the divine realm is not there, there is a possibility of modification to all of this. Suddenly, Jiang Xiaofeng felt his right hand gradually getting hotter. He quickly lifted his right hand and saw it continuously emitting a red light. The radiance grew stronger and the temperature in his hands grew higher, even making Jiang Xiaofeng scream in agony. Ah! Jiang Xiaofeng sat on the floor sweating profusely, panting heavily and his heart beating violently. He lowered his head, extended his right hand, and carefully observed. The abnormality on his right hand seems to have never appeared before, but Jiang Xiaofeng can feel some changes in his right hand and body, and his right hand seems to have some special abilities. What is this ability to purify nebular gas? And Jiang Xiaofeng checked his danger level and said, the danger level is 2.6, which has been increased by 0.2. The production of energy bottles can be put on the agenda now. According to Jiang Xiaofeng's memory, tomorrow is probably the time when Nar appears. If you want to compete with Tang Wulin for Gu Yuna, tomorrow is basically the only opportunity. You should know that Tang Wulin has the bloodline of the Golden Dragon King and has a natural attraction to Gu Yu and Nar. It can be said that if you miss the opportunity to boost your favorability tomorrow, you can basically conclude that Gu Yuna and he are not destined. As for what is destroyed without getting it, Jiang Xiaofeng is not that extreme. In the future, he can basically be certain that he wants to become a Kamen Rider. Although he doesn't know if he is competent, he can't tarnish the title of Kamen Rider. We don't deserve the title of Kamen Rider, but we can't be Kamen freaks, can we? Moreover, his overall perception of Tang Wulin is decent, and although there may be some minor personality flaws, overall there is no problem, except for some people who maliciously criticize him. If I go to see Nar tomorrow, I will definitely face those little thugs. To prevent any accidents, it's better to make an energy bottle as soon as possible. As for the material of the energy bottle, there are ready-made ones in Pandora's magic box, and the main problem is that the ingredients inside need to be purified before use. The Pandora's magic box here is set to contain 60 empty bottles, similar to how the energy bottle components in the Pandora's magic box in TV dramas are extracted. Jiang Xiaofeng reached out to Pandora's magic box and took off a metal plate from it. He saw 10 unpurified energy bottles inserted on this metal panel. At first glance, these 10 energy bottles looked no different, but Jiang Xiaofeng could feel that there were 2 energy bottles attracting him, one more attractive and the other relatively weaker. He took out the energy bottle that had the strongest attraction to him from them. Due to the lack of any auxiliary purification equipment at present, Jiang Xiaofeng can only purify it in the most primitive way. I saw Jiang Xiaofeng tightly holding the energy bottle in his right hand, and his right hand began to emit a red light. This is Jiang Xiaofeng fully driving his relatively weak purification ability. The spider web pattern on the energy bottle began to slowly fade away, and the body of the bottle began to thin out. The originally gray-white color gradually changed to red. The sweat on Jiang Xiaofeng's head grew more and more, and his body began to tremble continuously. He gritted his teeth and persisted. After all, he didn't know if there would be any accidents when the process of purifying the energy bottle was stopped. After several minutes, the gray-white energy bottle finally turned completely red, and the patterns on it changed from spider web patterns to rabbit patterns. Jiang Xiaofeng collapsed to the ground, looking at the red rabbit energy bottle in his hand and murmuring, "Rabbit. I don't know if I can match this rabbit." He thought of the genius scientist who fought for seemingly childish ideals such as love and peace, Tongsheng Zhantu. If his ideals were placed on this continent, everyone would probably think he was ridiculous. No, even in his own world. He himself also knows how powerless love and peace are in reality, unless one day, everyone can have such a dream, and love and peace can be realized. The Tongsheng battle rabbit fought for this. However, Jiang Xiaofeng himself does not have such lofty ideals. His greatest ideal is to marry a beautiful wife and live happily, even when he comes to the Douluo Continent. If it weren't for Gu Yuna being the master of soul beasts and shouldering the responsibility of soul beast revival, Jiang Xiaofeng really didn't have much motivation to become stronger. Therefore, he didn't think he could match the special energy bottle of the rabbit. Relatively speaking, the early crows was more suitable for him. He didn't have such lofty ideals, but he was willing to fight for the rabbit. But since I have already held it in my hand, I can't tarnish his reputation. Forget it, I don't want to do so much for now. Go to sleep, I'm exhausted. Thinking of this, Jiang Xiaofeng climbed directly onto the bed and fell asleep. Xiaofeng, let's eat. Jiang Haitang's voice came from the restaurant, but after a while, there was no response. Xiaofeng. There was still no response. Jiang Haitang opened the door to Jiang Xiaofeng's room and said, "Xiaofeng, eat F." Her voice suddenly stopped when she saw Jiang Xiaofeng sleeping soundly. "Are you tired of awakening your martial soul?" Jiang Haitang muttered heartily, walking gently to Jiang Xiaofeng's bed and gently helping him pull the blanket. "Sleep." Jiang Haitang lightly kissed Jiang Xiaofeng's forehead and tiptoed out of his room, closing the door gently before leaving. And in the future, it also took root at this moment. Abyss. The sage seemed to feel something and turned his head to look at the steadily eroding Douluo Continent as planned, but upon careful observation, he did not notice any changes in Douluo Continent. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. I am just a soul master, I am not as powerful as a soul master. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. I am just a soul master, I don't have the power of a soul master. The next day, Jiang Xiaofeng was called out early. Today is the time for the release of an epic disaster blockbuster, and the name of this disaster blockbuster is Opening School. Okay, this is just for academic underachievers. For Jiang Xiaofeng now, any theoretical knowledge can be learned instantly. The current Jiang Xiaofeng is a legendary person who doesn't listen in class, plays wildly after class, doesn't review before exams, and gets full marks on exams. The school Jiang Xiaofeng went to was the Hongshan College led by his mother. Under normal circumstances, he will start a learning career of at least 9 years, without considering special circumstances such as skipping grades or running directly to Shrek College. Because Aolai City is a small city, there haven't been many accompanying Soul Power students this year, so there are only 16 Soul Master classes in the whole grade. I wonder if it's because of the birth of Sun Monkey. Okay, jokingly, there is no story of Sun Wukong causing chaos in the Heavenly Palace here. Even if there were, it would probably turn into a monkey causing chaos in the divine realm for millions of years. With only 16 people, Jiang Xiaofeng and Tang Wulin were naturally assigned to the same class. When Jiang Xiaofeng arrived at the classroom, almost everyone in the class was showing off their martial souls. When Jiang Xiaofeng saw Tang Wulin proudly raise his right hand and say, "My martial soul is like the blue-silver grass of the founding ancestors of the Tang sect," the corner of his mouth couldn't help but twitch. Good guy, you're really full of confidence. He's the blue-silver emperor. Well, even though you're right, your martial soul is really the same as your father's. They're both blue-silver emperors. To be honest, Jiang Xiaofeng quite likes Tang Wulin now. After all, in Jiang Xiaofeng's eyes, Tang Wulin now is completely a child. After all, Tang Wulin is not like Tang San, who is a time traveler. He is just a scheming boy. Before crossing the river, Jiang Xiaofeng's favorite thing to do was to tease children. Besides, my grandmother once said, "Children are treasures of this world." Seeing others laughing at Tang Wulin's martial soul, Jiang Xiaofeng couldn't help but interject, "Your martial soul isn't so good either, can you not talk about others?" Okay, it seems that most family education is not very good, and they tend to look at people through colored glasses. What is your martial soul? If you have the ability, let it out and have a look, the child who claimed to be the blade god Douluo asked in frustration. Just as Jiang Xiaofeng was hesitating whether or not to showcase his martial soul, their teacher arrived and said, "All right, everyone be quiet." Everyone returned to their seats, and we're going to start classes. It's better to compare the quality of martial soul here day by day than to compare the speed of cultivation. Watching these little brats go crazy and die without knowing anything, the homeroom teacher was almost scared to the point of having a sudden cardiac arrest. Others don't know who Jiang Xiaofeng is, can she, as a homeroom teacher, still not know? He is the son of the dean. If the dean gets angry and dismisses these people, then he will also have an accident. Fortunately, I was clever enough to stop everything in a timely manner. How clever I am. Returning to her seat, Tang Wulin gratefully glanced at Jiang Xiaofeng, who shook her head and said it was okay. In this first class, the teacher talked about some basic theories of martial spirit, which Jiang Xiaofeng basically knew, some of which were from the novels before the crossing, and some of which were told to him by his mother now. And today I also said hello to Tang Wulin. Regarding the future development direction, Jiang Xiaofeng has also thought about it. He can basically confirm that he wants to follow the team, because the Knight system cannot reach its strongest form from the beginning, and the powerful power of the Knight system can easily attract other major forces to covet. So, a suitable support is necessary. After thinking about it, it seems that only Shrek College is more suitable. It has the most advanced facilities to assist oneself in better research, and its strong strength can provide protection for oneself in the early stage. Someone might want to say, why don't we just get the genius bottle out? Anyway, I have all the materials in my hands. You're thinking about farting. To use the genius form, the danger level must reach at least 6.0, which exceeds the limit of the human body. Even in bubble form, the danger level needs to reach 3.5 or above to be used normally. As for why not go to the spirit tower? Because the water inside is too deep, accidents can easily occur if one is not careful. Moreover, as an organization similar to the Martial Soul Hall, the Spirit Transmission Tower controls the supply of souls for everyone. What if a set of armor systems appeared at this time, which could give ordinary people the power to compete with or even surpass soul masters? You should know that even current mechs, once their level is elevated to a certain level, only soul masters can control them. But the night system is completely different, even those without cultivation may have the power to surpass soul masters. Secondly, there is another reason why a certain street fighting author cannot even write about the system in the transmission tower, so they can only go to Shrek with the group. Time is approaching in the afternoon, and it is already time for school to end. Jiang Xiaofeng walked alone on the road, starting to search for Na's figure in all directions. He had to find Na before Tang Wulin, otherwise Na might be attracted by that damn natural attraction, and ultimately chose to go with Tang Wulin. Of course, if Jiang Xiaofeng ultimately fails, Na will still walk with Tang Wulin. Jiang Xiaofeng wouldn't harbor jealousy or anything like that, it just means he doesn't have that lucky spot. Fortunately, the increase in danger level also strengthened his vision and hearing. Jiang Xiaofeng finally caught sight of the silver-haired figure before Tang Wulin. She was dirty all over, and her clothes were also tattered. Her silver short hair, paired with purple eyes, was definitely Na. It seemed like she felt Jiang Xiaofeng looking at her, and Na also looked up at Jiang Xiaofeng. Looking at Na's beautiful eyes, Jiang Xiaofeng seemed to be touched. Well, she's all dirty now and can't tell what's good or bad. Jiang Xiaofeng walked over and crouched down, asking, "Where is your family?" Seemingly sensing that Jiang Xiaofeng had no ill intentions, Na shook her head. "Where is your home then?" Na continued to shake her head. "Then I'll take you to my house. My mother takes care of me at home, and she will definitely like you." "There's no way, but Tang Wulin will come in a little while. Maybe something will happen." "Oh. Whose child is that?" A few flowing young people walked over and immediately whispered when they saw Na. "This silver-haired one is really rare, and it can definitely be sold for a good price on the black market." "What about the one next to me?" "The one next to him looks like a wealthy child, just leave him alone." Their words may not be heard by others, but Jiang Xiaofeng's enhanced hearing was still very easy to hear their conversation. They looked at themselves with a smile and said, "Children, this is our child. We need to take her back." Jiang Xiaofeng looked at Na and saw her nervously gripping her arm. Seeing this situation, Jiang Xiaofeng sighed helplessly and then turned to these human traffickers, saying, "If you insist on taking her away, you must consider the consequences carefully." A young man impatiently kicked Jiang Xiaofeng aside, then grabbed Na and ran. Jiang Xiaofeng immediately stood up, picked up the rabbit energy bottle, and started shaking it. A few strands of red light floated from the energy bottle and flew into Jiang Xiaofeng's body. Jiang Xiaofeng instantly felt his legs becoming extremely powerful, so powerful that he couldn't even control it. "Since we can't control it, let's just hit it." A few human traffickers saw a flash of red light and were knocked down on the ground. They turned around and looked at Jiang Xiaofeng in shock. "Run, it's a soul master." Jiang Xiaofeng walked up to Na, who had fallen to the ground, and gently helped her up. Na looked at Jiang Xiaofeng in amazement and timidly said her first sentence after seeing Jiang Xiaofeng, "Are you a soul master?" Jiang Xiaofeng was stunned for a moment, then smiled and said, "No, I'm just a soul master. I don't have the powerful power of a soul master." End of this chapter. Chapter 6. 5 Years of Blood Earning. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6. 5 Years of Blood Earning. Seeing that Na was finally willing to speak, Jiang Xiaofeng felt a sense of joy in his heart. At least he was willing to speak to himself, which was a good start. "By the way, what's your name?" Jiang Xiaofeng asked with a smile. Although he knew Na's name, if he didn't ask like this and just call out Nar's name, Nar might be scared away. Nar hesitated for a moment and said, "My name is Nar." Sigh. Sure enough, I'm not Tang Wulin. Tang Wulin came over and made Nar fall in love at first sight. Replacing the same thing with herself only made Nar let go of her guard. Alas, why is the gap between people so big? Jiang Xiaofeng was about to ask Nar some more questions when suddenly Nar's stomach let out a "gu" sound. The scene suddenly froze, and Jiang Xiaofeng looked at Nar. Nar shyly lowered her head. Although Nar's face was covered in dust, Jiang Xiaofeng could still see that Nar's face was slightly red. "Are you hungry?" Jiang Xiaofeng asked. Nar nodded and let out a low hum. "Then you come home with me. My mother cooks so delicious." At this moment, Jiang Xiaofeng was like a strange millet that lured little Loli. What? He looks like a child now, so he looks fine. Nar hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she succumbed to her stomach, nodded, and was abducted home by the strange child. Tang Wulin was running home in full swing, and at this moment he was almost starving. Suddenly, he stopped at an intersection and looked at the empty intersection, feeling as if he had lost something. "Never mind, it's important to eat." "Mom, I'm back," Jiang Xiaofeng shouted while knocking on the door. "Coming." There was a sound of footsteps coming from behind the door, and then the door was opened. A woman walked out from behind the door, who was very beautiful. Although not a particularly top-notch beauty, she did deserve the word beautiful. Nar continued to scrutinize the scene inside the door. Although the decoration inside was not glamorous, it was definitely valuable. After all, as a soul master with certain strength, she had better economic conditions than ordinary people. Jiang Haitang was confused at the moment she opened the door. How could her son go to the Junior Soul Master Academy and bring back a little girl directly? What is this? Is this considered early love? "Mom, this is Nar, on the way, I'm on my way." Jiang Xiaofeng recounted the whole story and also talked about his use of the energy bottle. Jiang Xiaofeng could probably guess that if he told her about his battle with those delinquent youths, Jiang Haitang would definitely teach him a lesson for half a day, so he wanted to use the energy bottle to distract Jiang Haitang's attention. However, it turned out that he failed. After hearing this, Jiang Haitang immediately began to check if Jiang Xiaofeng was injured. It was only after confirming that Jiang Xiaofeng had not been harmed at all that she finally felt relieved. Jiang Haitang looked stern and scolded, "You can't be so reckless next time, you know." "Mom, I understand. I'm fine now. Besides, we can't just watch Nar be captured." Jiang Xiaofeng tried to transfer his firepower again, trying to transfer it onto Nar. This time, he succeeded. Jiang Haitang looked at Nar and asked softly, "Child, your name is Nar. Where are your parents?" Nar shook her head, indicating that she didn't know. Seeing that she couldn't ask anything, Jiang Haitang had to give up and gave Jiang Xiaofeng and Nar a bath together. Because Nar and Jiang Xiaofeng are both young, Anyway, in Jiang Haitang's eyes, they were still very small, so the two of them decided to wash together. Jiang Xiaofeng didn't have much resistance to this. In his past life, when he was a child, he asked the waiter several times after entering the women's bathhouse when he didn't need to enter. The answer he received was, "When you wanted to come in." At that time, he didn't understand the meaning of this sentence until later. When LSPs want to enter the women's bathhouse, they can no longer enter. However, this time, Jiang Xiaofeng was a feast for his eyes. Cough, this is also an unavoidable thing. That's right, I was forced and helpless. It's definitely not what I wanted to see. You know, now it's 5 years of hard work. Starting from 5 years, the highest death penalty. After taking a shower, Nar finally revealed her original appearance. "We won't copy and paste here anymore. Everyone knows what she looks like," but she looks really nice. During the meal, Jiang Xiaofeng was naturally shocked by Nar's terrifying appetite. Although Jiang Xiaofeng knew about Nar's appetite, he only had some understanding in the novel. After seeing it, he couldn't help but be shocked. To be honest, Jiang Xiaofeng even wanted to study the structure of Nar's stomach, which could hold so much food but showed no signs of growing. After finishing dinner, Jiang Xiaofeng finally remembered what Jiang Xiaofeng had said about the energy bottle. By the way, Xiaofeng, what did you mean by the energy bottle? That's it. Jiang Xiaofeng took out the red rabbit energy bottle from his body. This is what I separated from my martial soul. It can give me jumping power and speed. Jiang Xiaofeng took the energy bottle and tried to shake it herself, but naturally there was no reaction. After all, Jiang Xiaofeng did not have nebular gas in her body, so it was impossible to use the power of the energy bottle. Jiang Xiaofeng took back the energy bottle and demonstrated it himself. He held the bottle in his hand and gently shook it a few times. Jiang Xiaofeng saw a flash of red light, and Jiang Xiaofeng came from in front of him to behind. This speed is a bit difficult to see with the strength of her fourth ring soul sect, let alone an ordinary person without soul power. Is this the ability that your martial soul has brought you? Jiang Xiaofeng asked in confusion. It seems so, but the only thing I can truly fully unleash is this one, Jiang Xiaofeng explained. He has a feeling that the energy bottle of the tank should also be usable, but it may only be able to exert 50% of its power, and other energy bottles cannot be used at all unless using the Chuangqi driver. Jiang Xiaofeng took her to the administrator to inquire about Nar's information, while Jiang Xiaofeng started exercising again and worked with the rabbit energy bottle to see if she could increase her danger level. According to Jiang Xiaofeng's calculation, in the future, he can only engage in combat in this way, so the use of energy bottles must be proficient. The research on other devices should also be put on the agenda as soon as possible. Jiang Xiaofeng not only inherited the knowledge of Zhantu, but also the technological level of Zhantu. You should know that in TV dramas, Zhantu's handcrafted skills are extremely powerful. Without the assistance of any precision instruments, he managed to create a bunch of weapons, energy bottles, and ultimately created miraculous works like the Genius Energy Bottle. P.S. Unify your combat power. The initial form of build is approximately equivalent to a typical Soul King at level 40 or 50. The bubble shape of the rabbit tank is approximately equivalent to that of a typical level 70 or 80, Soul Saint, Soul Douluo. The dangerous form before losing control is roughly equivalent to the level of a tidal Douluo. Entering overflow mode, or double rabbit and double tank, is approximately equivalent to extreme Douluo, approaching level 100 gods. The genius form is approximately equivalent to a first-level deity, and after fully exerting 60 abilities, its combat power approaches the divine king. When emotions erupt, there is basically no upper limit to M. Douluo's combat power is really too low, and even so, it feels like it has weakened the build a bit. Tomorrow's exam, you may need to take a leave. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Life of a Scholar, Mourning for 4 Academicians including Yuan Lao. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Life of a Scholar, Mourning for 4 Academicians including Yuan Lao, and the Battle Rabbit also has a special skill, which is also his proudest skill. Element Synthesis. This element does not refer to the elements in fantasy, but rather to the elements in the periodic table of chemistry. Due to the scalability of the build system and its complex and diverse forms, the armor of the creator requires extremely high metal requirements. It must have strong plasticity and be able to react with the components in the energy bottle to produce corresponding abilities. This is obviously not something that elements on Earth can do, and this technology can reassemble different atoms to form new atoms, thereby finding the metal elements they need. Simply put, it is possible to synthesize iron with other metal elements to obtain silver. It is also with this technology that he can independently create various reinforcement items and weapons for various forms without research materials. After inheriting the knowledge of War Rabbit, Jiang Xiaofeng naturally mastered this skill. But even if he fully understood this technology, Jiang Xiaofeng couldn't help but marvel at how amazing it was. After a while, Jiang Haitang returned with Nar. Jiang Xiaofeng immediately put away Pandora's magic box and ran over to ask, "How are you, Mom? Have you found Nar's family?" Jiang Haitang shook her head and said, "No, there is no information about Nar in the file. We can only send her to the orphanage or adopt her ourselves." "Xiaofeng, do you mind having an extra sister?" "Of course not. Are you joking? How could you possibly mind? I worked hard to get her over, how could I send her out again? Nar, would you like to stay at our house and let me be your mother and Xiaofeng be your brother?" Jiang Haitang asked Nar with a smile, waiting for her reply. Nar looked at Jiang Haitang and then at Jiang Xiaofeng with an expectant expression, and finally nodded. In this way, Jiang Xiaofeng spent a week studying. They initially learned some theoretical knowledge, including soul-teacher theory and some cultural knowledge. Jiang Xiaofeng learned that the use of machinery in Douluo Continent was not very advanced, and their mechanical technology was still at the level before the first industrial revolution in their previous lives. Their technology was mainly achieved through soul-guided formations. For example, the so-dot called Level 12 fixed soul-guided gun is the shell that destroyed Shrek Academy. In fact, its power is equivalent to intercontinental missiles from previous lifetimes, let alone nuclear weapons from earlier lifetimes. As long as it can be combined with the mechanical technology after the first industrial revolution, this soul-guided gun will instantly be downgraded from level 11 to level 9, and the manufacturing cost will also be significantly reduced. This can also be considered a gain and loss. With the convenient tool of soul power, they tend to focus more on personal cultivation, resulting in a slowdown in the overall progress of civilization. The technology of Douluo Continent, or in other words, the level of soul guidance technology, developed from ancient level to modern level in 20,000 years, while the Earth in the previous life only took 2,000 years without soul power. It can be said that humans in their past lives experienced several technological explosions over thousands of years, while Douluo Continent only experienced 2 technological explosions over a period of 20,000 years. The first time was during the Tang San period, when he brought the knowledge of Jigua from another world, which led to the first technological explosion in Douluo Continent. The second time was during the reign of Huiyuhao, when he first combined soul-guided technology with mechanical technology, and the second technological explosion occurred. For the remaining time, the technological level of Douluo Continent has been in a slow development stage, and the pace of progress is also unmatched. Some people may not be familiar with the term technology explosion, which comes from Lu Cixin's three-body problem. He believes that although human technology may seem to develop steadily, if we put the time scale on the cosmic level, we will find that human technological development is fundamentally explosive. Human technology may not have made significant progress in nearly 1,000 years, and then break through in just a few hundred years. This kind of thing has happened before. It took thousands of years for human power to change from human labor to steam, but it only took about 100 years for steam to become electricity. When Jiang Xiaofeng was thinking about these questions, most of them were in the classroom, so in the eyes of the teacher, he was just wandering around. However, no matter how they asked questions, Jiang Xiaofeng could answer them fluently. They tried asking a question for Jiang Xiaofeng to answer, or asking him to repeat what he had just said, but each time they got a better answer than the standard answer. There was even a teacher who, in a fit of anger, asked Jiang Xiaofeng to repeat everything he said from the moment he entered the door until he was called up. In fact, he was just momentarily angry. He could clearly see that Jiang Xiaofeng was distracted, but he couldn't find evidence, so he became angry and asked such a question. After all, he couldn't even repeat what he had said in this class himself. In the second half of the class, the whole class looked bewildered as Jiang Xiaofeng memorized all the words the teacher had said. Since then, this teacher has never controlled Jiang Xiaofeng again, and Jiang Xiaofeng became famous as a result. At the weekend, the soul guidance teacher that Jiang Haitang invited for Jiang Xiaofeng finally arrived. Xiaofeng, this is your future soul guidance teacher. He is a level 4 soul guidance teacher. You should listen to him well, don't you know? Jiang Haitang looked at the proud middle-aged man and introduced him to Jiang Xiaofeng. The middle-aged man looked at Jiang Xiaofeng and asked disdainfully, did he understand how to learn soul guidance at such a young age? In the eyes of ordinary people, the 4th level soul master is already an extremely noble existence. Even the dean of a junior soul master college like Jiang Haitang cannot compare with him. That's why he dares to be so arrogant in front of Jiang Haitang. If it were Shrek Academy, or places like the Transmission Tower, there would be no one to praise him for his level 4 soul mentors. It's okay, just teach me and I'll have enough money, Jiang Haitang said with an awkward smile. Okay. If you can't teach well, don't blame me. Jiang Xiaofeng suddenly became a bit angry. It's okay if you look down on me, but you can't look down on my mother. Of course, he won't say this in person, otherwise it may cause trouble for Jiang Haitang. He is prepared to seek revenge on this middle-aged man through other means. The middle-aged man walked into the room with Jiang Xiaofeng and looked at him arrogantly, saying, I didn't want to come, but your mother begged me repeatedly, so I reluctantly came to take a look. I only taught these things once, and if I can't learn them, I don't need to waste time with you. 5 hours later, who am I when a middle-aged person looks at me? Where am I? What am I doing? His expression froze on the side. In front of him was a level 5 soul guide that Jiang Xiaofeng had crafted himself. In his over 50 years of life, he has never experienced such a terrifying thing. He only explained some of the original elements of the soul guiding array, and then demonstrated how to make a second-level soul guiding device. The child in front of him said he knew it, but he didn't believe it. So the child made a 5th-level soul guiding device in front of him. He spent 20 minutes teaching theoretical knowledge, 4.5 hours making a second-level soul guide, and then the little kid in front of him spent 10 minutes making a 5th-level soul guide. Am I crazy or is this world crazy? Or am I and the world going crazy? P.S. What's going on these past few days? As far as I know, there have been 4 consecutive deaths of high-ranking figures, and I am not very familiar with the other 3, but Yuan is too familiar. I have never seen him before, and in theory, they have passed away, but I just want to cry. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. 3 years later. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. 3 years later. P.S. Someone asked that creating a soul guide requires soul power and spiritual power, but Jiang Xiaofeng doesn't have these things, so he shouldn't be able to create a soul guide. Let me explain here. The protagonist possesses the intelligence, skills, and knowledge of the war rabbit, who can create a genius bottle without precise equipment and sufficient resources, which is much more difficult than the production of soul guides. Of course, this is just a second part of the book. In the evening, Jiang Haitang was ready to invite Jiang Xiaofeng out for dinner, and also invited the 4th-level soul guidance master to stay for a meal. After all, Jiang Xiaofeng's learning depended entirely on him, so it would be better if he didn't serve him well. Jiang Haitang walked to the door of the room, reached out her hand and was about to knock when she saw the door suddenly pop open. A desperate old man with white hair rushed out of the room. The old man didn't pause at all and rushed out of her house. That's not right. When did we have an elderly man with white hair in our family? Or did he run out of Jiang Xiaofeng's room? Can't it be that soul guiding master? No way. No way. He is a level 4 soul mentor. The person who was out of his mind just now clearly suffered a huge blow. He may have been lethargic in this life, how could he be an adult soul mentor? Jiang Haitang smiled self-deprecatingly and continued to look into the room. He saw only Jiang Xiaofeng left in the room, and the soul mentor was nowhere to be seen. The only traces left were 2 soul guides. Although Jiang Haitang is not a soul mentor, he can still recognize the level of soul guides. One is a level 2 soul guide glider, and the other is a level 5 aircraft. The second level soul guide is easy to understand. It may have been made during a demonstration, but is it really not beyond the scope? What's going on with another level 5 soul guide? You should know that even level 4 soul mentors have a probability of failure when making level 4 soul guides, let alone level 5 soul guides. If it were a level 5 soul mentor, their family wouldn't be able to hire them. So where did this level 5 soul mentor come from? Also, what about master soul guidance? Xiaofeng, where is the teacher? Jiang Haitang asked in confusion. Did you just go out? Jiang Xiaofeng tilted his head and answered innocently. Is that the person just now him? Jiang Haitang was confused. What did a person experience to become like that in a short time? Why did he have to leave? Jiang Xiaofeng shook his head, picked up the aircraft he had made, and answered innocently, I don't know. I made this and he ran away. Seeing Jiang Xiaofeng's innocent expression, Jiang Haitang instinctively nodded and said, that's strange. How did he become like that and run away? Hey, wait, what seems to be wrong? What are you saying? You made it yourself. Jiang Haitang's voice increased by an eighth. Jiang Xiaofeng nodded and took 3 minutes to dismantle it into pieces, then 5 minutes to assemble it all back together. Jiang Haitang took a cold breath, and the global temperature suddenly rose by a few points. Then, Jiang Haitang looked seriously at Jiang Xiaofeng and said, remember, before you are strong enough, never reveal all your soul weapon talents. Although Jiang Haitang doesn't have a deep presence in the world of soul masters, she still knows the truth that Mu Xiu will destroy Lin Feng. If Jiang Xiaofeng is just a normal talent and intelligence, it's okay. Major organizations may look up to him, but he won't take him seriously until he grows up. But at the age of 6, the concept of manufacturing a level 5 soul guide is a bit scary. Jiang Haitang doesn't know how he did it, but if this news spreads, it will definitely not be a good thing for Jiang Xiaofeng. The status of soul masters is gradually weakening now. In this era without gods, the development of soul guides has become an inevitable trend. A prodigy who can independently create a level 5 soul guide at the age of 6 may have a greater value than the title Douluo. Before he finds enough support or possesses sufficient strength, this talent may bring him fatal consequences at any time. Seeing Jiang Haitang's serious expression, Jiang Xiaofeng also realized that his approach was inappropriate. But now it's okay, the words of a level 4 soul mentor really don't have much reference value on this continent. Well, I know. Jiang Xiaofeng nodded seriously. This place was different from his previous life, where a strong motherland could help him block everything. But it's not possible here. Soul masters are above the law, and the Sun-Moon Federation is full of intrigues and struggles. There is also a divine realm above that I don't know if there are any backers. In short, I am still a bit drifting, but fortunately, I haven't caused any irreversible consequences yet. Seeing that Jiang Xiaofeng had listened, Jiang Haitang felt relieved and touched Jiang Xiaofeng's head. 3 years later, bang. Jiang Xiaofeng suddenly got up from the bed and ran to the place where the explosion sounded. It was a mechanical wall filled with complex circuits and various strange soul guidance arrays. This is the energy bottle purification device made by Jiang Xiaofeng. Combined with the soul guidance array of this world, the effect of this device has surpassed that of the purification device made by War Rabbit. It does not require a person with purification ability to operate it for a long time. As long as some purification energy is injected at the beginning, this device can complete the subsequent purification process of the energy bottle on its own. Upon hearing the explosion, Nar instantly got up from the bed and asked with a surprised expression, the energy bottle has been purified. What energy bottle is it this time? Jiang Xiaofeng took out a blue energy bottle from the square. At the beginning, Jiang Xiaofeng could feel that this energy bottle contained more powerful power than other energy bottles. On the blue bottle, there is a depiction of the head of a giant dragon. Nar, it's a dragon. Jiang Xiaofeng raised the dragon's energy bottle and waved to Nar. In these 3 years, Nar finally made this place her own home completely. Just like in the original work, she did not awaken her martial soul and could only learn cultural knowledge. And Jiang Xiaofeng also became a god of learning figure in school, but his soul power could not exceed level 10 no matter what. In these 3 years, Jiang Xiaofeng and Tang Wulin also formed a considerable friendship. After all, Jiang Xiaofeng still liked Tang Wulin when he was a child. He is different from Tang San. Jiang Xiaofeng analyzed that Tang San probably belongs to that kind of person. What does the destruction of the world have to do with him? As long as his family and friends live well, everything else has nothing to do with him. His persona is not as serious as the online slander. He loves Xiaowu just for soul rings and so on. The kind belongs to brainless black. The real Tang San should belong to the kind who can make good friends or brothers with him, but he is definitely not a just person. And now Tang Wulin. That is a just partner. It's hard to say what will happen in the future, but his personality is fine now. The current danger level of Jiang Xiaofeng is stuck at 2.9, unable to move forward any further. It seems that something is missing, which prevents the danger level from further improving. However, the Chuangqi drive, mechanical creator motorcycle, and energy bottle have basically been completed, and it can be said that everything is ready except for Dongfeng. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Love and Peace. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9 Love and Peace. When manufacturing the Chuangqi driver, Jiang Xiaofeng considered whether to load the core program of the Chuangqi system inside, as this program has a decisive impact on the growth potential of Chuangqi. And this program is also the ultimate work that Gu Qingren is proud of. He named it Love and Peace. This system can absorb the emotions of users to continuously strengthen themselves, surpass themselves, and truly unleash the power of the Night system, which is the idealistic burst of the Kamen Rider. But if one's mentality does not match, they may be restricted everywhere, unable to exert the normal power of the Night system, and even unable to use the Night system directly. Only those blood races from outer space, although they can also use the Creator Rider drive, what they truly use is not the power from the Night system, but rather the use of the Night system as a trigger to release their own power, so that they can unleash such powerful power. However, Jiang Xiaofeng knew that his current consciousness was not enough to fully unleash the true power of the Night system. Abandoning this program may make him lose the potential to create a Night, but installing it may not even be possible to transform. Therefore, he hesitated to install this core program of Love and Peace. Jiang Xiaofeng, relying on the knowledge of the War Rabbit, naturally had the option to dismantle it, but he ultimately kept it. He still wants to see if he can become the Kamen Rider in his heart. Jiang Xiaofeng looked at the dragon energy bottle in his hand, which was also a special energy bottle. Although it was the best combination with the lock energy bottle, the two energy bottles couldn't reach a balance at all. Moreover, one energy bottle could meet the energy needs of the driver's transformation. And Jiang Xiaofeng could also feel that this energy bottle seemed to be attracting Nar, just like the rabbit energy bottle was attracting him at that time. What exactly is going on? Is it because Nar is actually the Silver Dragon King? Nar, here you are, said Jiang Xiaofeng as he threw the dragon energy bottle at Nar. Nar quickly reached out and caught the energy bottle thrown by Jiang Xiaofeng, then looked at him with a puzzled expression. This is a superpower bracelet. Ah. This energy bottle seems to belong to you, and it's not very useful to me either. I might as well give it to you, maybe it will be useful in the future, Jiang Xiaofeng explained. Well, I got it, brother. Nar nodded with a smile. In these 3 years, she has been very happy. Both her mother and brother love her very much. Basically, She is afraid of falling when held in her hand and melting when held in her mouth. The only thing that was a bit frustrating was that she didn't have a martial soul, which made her sad for a long time. She felt like she was useless. Mom is a very powerful soul master who can easily support this family. Although my brother is not a soul master, he is also very powerful. He has strange inventions every day and doesn't need soul power. It's so magical. Only oneself, useless at all, without a martial soul, not as intelligent as my brother, and eating a lot. However, my own thoughts cannot let my brother and mother know. When my mother saw Nar so sad before, she always thought it was her own responsibility. It's really true that she has no martial soul and has nothing to do with my mother. But Nar is really touched. And my brother is also studying his own martial soul problem. He is so smart that he can definitely come up with it. In fact, Jiang Xiaofeng is also worried about how to explain her martial soul issue to Nar. After spending these 3 years together, Jiang Xiaofeng really regards Nar as his family, and he naturally hopes that Nar can live happily. But now Nar is always feeling inferior due to her martial soul issues, which has given Jiang Xiaofeng a headache. How should I tell Nar? Are we going to say to her, Nar? Upright arrow son downright arrow. Why don't you have a martial soul? Why do you eat much more than an average person? Why doesn't the federal government have your record? Bow upright arrow living downright arrow forever upright arrow dream downright arrow. Ah bah. Na upright arrow son downright arrow. You are the first soul beast in the world. Ahahaha. Nar looked calm and said, the more I become a human, the more I realize that humans have limits. Jiang Xiaofeng looked shocked and said, what exactly are you going to say? I won't be a human anymore. I want to surpass humans. Cough, it seems like something strange has come to mind. Anyway, how could I possibly say that to her? If I say that, well, it doesn't seem impossible either. In short, as long as the language is well organized, it is not impossible. Moreover, Jiang Xiaofeng has also extracted some blood samples from Nar, which indeed shows that she is not human. The DNA sequence in Nar's blood is fundamentally different from that of humans. The science and technology on Douluo Continent are very different from their past lives. Without such things as soul power, their living standards would even be stuck in the period before the first industrial revolution, not even comparable to mechanical technology, let alone the fields of biology and medicine. The medical treatment on Douluo Continent mainly uses healing soul masters for treatment, and research on the human body is mostly focused on meridians, with a complete lack of genetic research. Jiang Xiaofeng took a deep breath and said, Nar, the reason why you don't have a martial soul, I think I found it. Nar looked at Jiang Xiaofeng in surprise, hoping that Jiang Xiaofeng could solve this problem. Jiang Xiaofeng looked at Nar's expectant gaze and took a deep breath. You must keep this matter confidential and not tell anyone. Jiang Xiaofeng looked at Nar seriously. Nar saw Jiang Xiaofeng's serious expression and nodded in agreement, pretending to be serious. However, with her cute appearance, it gave people a fierce feeling no matter how she looked. Do you know why you don't have any records in the Federation? Nar shook her head. Based on my research on your DNA sequence is fundamentally different from humans. Nar nodded, although she couldn't understand, she always felt so powerful. It's very likely that you were transformed into a soul beast for 100,000 years. But I don't know what accident happened in the middle, causing you to lose your memory. Jiang Xiaofeng said while observing Nar's reaction. I saw Nar's mouth unconsciously open, and her eyes became dull with shock. And according to my research, you are likely an extremely powerful soul beast, because many powerful martial souls cannot be activated through human martial soul awakening. So, you must never go to some big cities. As long as your human cultivation reaches the level of soul Douluo, it is possible to see your identity. Your identity is too tempting for them. Before you become the soul emperor, don't go to big cities. Nar was completely stunned. After listening to Jiang Xiaofeng's words, many images flashed through her mind. Although they were not yet complete, they all proved that Jiang Xiaofeng's words were right. She may really be a soul beast. Will my brother take my soul ring? Nar's voice was filled with sadness, shock, and a hint of anticipation. No, that's almost begging. She is begging her brother not to become like other humans just because of her identity, just like the humans in the fleeting scenes in her mind, greedy, selfish, longing for their soul rings and bones. Jiang Xiaofeng took a deep breath and said, "Believe in my brother, he will definitely let you and your soul beasts live peacefully with humans." He seemed to see that Nar's thin shoulders carried the hope of all soul beasts and the hatred of soul beasts towards humanity. This heavy burden almost crushed her. No way, she is the master of soul beasts, carrying the hope of soul beast revival. The Lord of soul beasts is not a glory, but a shackle that makes Nar almost breathless. Xiaowu is just an ordinary soul beast, she can fly up to the divine realm with Tang San for her love. Snow Emperor, Heavenly Dream Ice Silkworm, they are just powerful soul beasts, and they can also sacrifice to Huiyuhao in pursuit of eternal life. But Nar cannot do it. She is the master of the soul beast and the last hope of the soul beast. She cannot be stubborn, she must become cold and have no choice. As Nar's brother, Jiang Xiaofeng couldn't bear to watch Nar collapse under this heavy burden. He wanted to help Nar bear this burden. This is his responsibility as a brother. For Nar's sake, he wants to give it a try. No, he must do it so that humans and soul beasts can live together under a blue sky. Let this world be filled with love and peace. Hazard level 3.0, end of this chapter. Chapter 10. Mechanical Creators. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Mechanical Creators. With the change of mood, Jiang Xiaofeng's danger level finally reached 3.0. It seems that in order to reach level 3 of danger, what is needed is not exercise, but consciousness. Similar to the omnipotent form of emptiness, it requires a strong awareness of combat. Except for the non-human dragon, the danger level has increased to the same level as drinking water. Nar looked at Jiang Xiaofeng's resolute expression and couldn't help but be stunned. I don't know why, but she can feel that Jiang Xiaofeng has really done a good job of enlightenment. Brother. Jiang Xiaofeng looked at Nar, and at that moment, he suddenly understood the wishes of those senior knights who wanted to protect her. The important person who wants to protect oneself is willing to risk their own life, which is probably this feeling. Brother, I want to go to the beach to play tonight. Nar said softly. Jiang Xiaofeng's heart trembled, are you coming? Although Jiang Xiaofeng had long known that Nar would leave, he still felt a bit reluctant to part ways. If someone who has been with them for 3 years suddenly leaves and their relationship is still good, it is likely that individuals will feel reluctant to part ways. After dinner, Jiang Xiaofeng, with the permission of Jiang Haitang, walked out of the house with Nar. Nar, let me show you another invention of mine. In Nar's expectant gaze, Jiang Xiaofeng took out a strangely shaped phone. Well, in this world, it should be called a soul guide communicator, in short, it's just that thing. Jiang Xiaofeng took out another yellow energy bottle, which belonged to the lion. Insert the energy bottle towards the phone, and the lion pattern will flash on the phone. As the start button was pressed, Jiang Xiaofeng threw the phone out of his hand. Build changed. The phone inserted into the energy bottle began to deform, and in Nar's surprised gaze, the phone transformed into a motorcycle. The overall color of this motorcycle is red, with a yellow gear at the front and an enlarged version of the energy bottle, the Lion energy bottle, on the rear seat. What is this? Machine Builder, powered by a Lion energy bottle, does not require soul power consumption and is equipped with an air jet system, allowing it to travel normally on various extreme roads, even on walls. It also. Seeing Nar's confused appearance, Jiang Xiaofeng knew he was playing the piano against a cow. Anyway, this motorcycle is very powerful. Let's go. Jiang Xiaofeng pressed a button on the motorcycle, and 2 helmets instantly appeared from the large energy bottle at the back. Wearing a helmet, Jiang Xiaofeng picked up Nar and set the destination, activated the autonomous driving mode, and the mechanical creator drove towards the seaside on his own. The beach here is not particularly beautiful, but the starry sky is very beautiful because the humans on Douluo Continent rely on soul power as their energy source, and there is naturally no atmospheric pollution. The starry sky is not like the Earth in the previous life, and the polluted atmosphere is almost invisible. This can also be considered a gain and loss. In my past life, such a starry sky could only exist in my memory, until I came to this Douluo Continent and was able to see this sky full of stars again. Brother, if I go back to the Soul Beast, will you miss me? Nar asked with some sadness. Do you remember? Jiang Xiaofeng asked tentatively. Nar nodded and said, She knew that when she asked this question, she couldn't hide it from his clever brother. That's great. You'll be safe when you get back to the Soul Beast. But you must come back and see me more, and Mom. If you're not here, both Mom and I will miss you. Jiang Xiaofeng replied with a smile, but there was a hint of reluctance in his smile. Well, I'll miss you too, and Mom, I really want to. Nar opened her big purple eyes and looked at Jiang Xiaofeng, with a faint mist in her eyes. Jiang Xiaofeng rubbed Nar's head and said, Believe in my brother, he will definitely change this world. Nar knew that what her brother wanted to change was a contradiction that lasted for tens of thousands of years. This phrase, spoken from a 9-year-old child, seemed so ridiculous, but Nar believed it. She believes that her omnipotent brother who has been around since childhood can definitely do it. It's ridiculous. He's a human little brat who can't even practice, and he still wants to dissolve the hatred that has lasted for tens of thousands of years. Why? Are he relying on his little inventions? A voice rang out in Nar's mind. I believe my brother can do it. Nar responded in her mind as if she was angry. I admit, his small hair is quite magical, but it's not worth mentioning in the face of absolute power. This kind of thing can't even be done during our peak period, let alone him. Let's make a bet. Okay, I'll accompany you to make a bet. What's the bet? Xiaofeng, I want to save enough money to buy souls. The next day, Tang Wulin ran over to share the good news with Jiang Xiaofeng with enthusiasm. After 3 years of getting along, Jiang Xiaofeng and Tang Wulin have become very good friends. After all, Tang Wulin is quite likable at this time, unlike Tang San, who is just a yin. Upon hearing this news, Jiang Xiaofeng frowned and had a dishonest idea. Cough, I thought of some bad things. If he remembers correctly, this 10-year soul was the beginning of his adoptive father and mother's sacrifice to heaven, because his parents were eager to buy him a 100-year soul and were forced to participate in the experiment of the transmission tower, ultimately dying in front of Tang Wulin. Allowing the tragedy in front of you to happen, and it is a tragedy that you can prevent, is not what a Kamen Rider should do. Although Jiang Xiaofeng doesn't think he deserves the title of Kamen Rider now, if someone needs help within reach, Jiang Xiaofeng will definitely extend a helping hand. He remembered that Tang Wulin had only saved 30,000 federal coins and could only purchase random spirits, which he couldn't even afford for 10 years. And his foster parents participated in the experiment of the transmission tower in order to purchase it for Tang Wulin. So all you need to do is raise 1 million federal coins and lend them to Tang Wulin. It's not so easy to do this if someone else does it. Maybe we have to go back and ask his mother. You should know that 1 million federal dollars is not a small sum of money. Although Jiang Haitang can afford it, it is not easy either. But Jiang Xiaofeng has been idle and bored in these 3 years. He has made many level 4 and 5 soul guides, and as soon as he sells any of them, the money comes in a flurry. Therefore, in these 3 years, the expenses of Jiang Xiaofeng's family were almost zero. Various household soul guides only needed Jiang Haiteng to buy some metal, and Jiang Xiaofeng could make them, and they were even better than those on the market. Turning to his senses, Jiang Xiaofeng smiled and congratulated Tang Wulin. Sure, if you become a skilled craftsman in the future, you must cover me up. Being blown away by Jiang Xiaofeng, Tang Wulin scratched her head with some embarrassment and said, it's too exaggerated to be a skilled craftsman or something. I'm satisfied to be a level 5 or 6 blacksmith. By the way, you can keep these things. If there's not enough money, you can sell them to him. Jiang Xiaofeng took out several small balls from behind. No, my dad said you can't take someone else's things. Tang Wulin quickly waved his hand and refused. Although he was young and couldn't recognize what it was, with the experience of a blacksmith, he could see that holding a few small balls was definitely a good thing. Jiang Xiaofeng patted Tang Wulin's shoulder and said, "It's okay. This is borrowed from you. If it's not needed, you can repay me again. If it's needed, you can repay me later." But Tang Wulin wanted to say something more. "It's okay. I've heard of your talent in forging. If nothing unexpected happens, a level 5 or 6 forging master is definitely not a problem. When someone rushes to give you money every day, are you afraid they won't be able to pay me back?" Tang Wulin still felt something was wrong, but under the impact of Jiang Xiaofeng's words, Tang Wulin still accepted it in a daze. Watching Tang Wulin accept the 3 soul guides, Jiang Xiaofeng breathed a sigh of relief in the dark. This way, there was basically no problem. Even if Tang Xiren and his wife wanted to repay the money in the future, there was no need to rush to participate in the experiment of the transmission tower. Although those soul guides could be easily created by themselves, they successfully saved a family. I just don't know how many such families there are, but it's still a series of political systems on the Douluo Continent that don't work. It's estimated that many ordinary geniuses will never make a name for themselves due to economic issues. Can I change all of this on my own? End of this chapter.